Okay, hello everybody. So I have had some technical difficulties, so I do apologize for starting this stream a little bit late. My name is Peter Jansen. I am a leadership coach. I have been doing this for the past 27 and a half years. So I have over 21,500 build coaching hours to leaders around the world. I've moved countries already 22 times doing exactly what I do. So talk about adaptability index, right? Okay, so a little bit about LeaderMakers. So LeaderMakers is my company. I founded this because I understood that I couldn't do everything by myself. That if I wanted to create an impact, I needed to multiply my efforts, and to do so, I recruited people and I trained people using exactly what we're going to be talking about today, recruiting through culture. But this is also how I have helped my clients build their organizations, including a few unicorns. So, in my time as a leadership coach, I have coached top CEOs. I've coached people in top leadership positions in the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank. Um, what else? A couple of presidents. In fact, one of the presidents I coached since the very, very beginning, before he even thought about becoming a president, and all the way up until a few days after he finished his presidency in his country. So it has been an absolute pleasure to serve the world in this way. And as my grandfather said once, he said, son, if you want to make money, you need to find a solution that'll help people. If you want to make a lot of money, you need to find a solution that'll help many people. But if you want to create an impact, then you need to really help many, many people. Now, these things are not fighting each other. Creating impact and making a living, they don't fight each other. They can actually coexist in a very nice way. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I have seen through time that there are a lot of recruitment issues. There are a lot of problems, especially with startups, and also with really big companies that are already established. Recruitment is done in a very mechanical, very poor way, to be honest. So, in order to get into this, let's first talk about the difference between leadership and management. Okay? Now, the difference between leadership and management is very, very unclear in some places, depending on the language you speak, the country you're in. Why? I don't know. It's a linguistic thing, I guess. But the differences are quite clear, and I'll illustrate them with this story. A story by an old mentor of mine um, by the name of Dr. Stephen R. Covey. I spent some time with him. I had the privilege to do that. It was absolutely wonderful time. I learned a great many lessons, and he actually he's the guy who wrote the book Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, this is a story. The story goes like this: imagine you're in the jungle, and you're in the jungle. You're building a hospital. There's people who are sick, and you need to build this hospital quite urgently and quite quickly to take care of the local population. You are the leader. You get there and you see everything is in order. You see that there are people cutting down the trees and carefully placing them in platforms, getting them moved. You have sustainability experts as well that are dealing with how to replant, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, then you have people who are teaching people how to wield their machetes so they can cut down the forest and start moving the debris, cutting down the trees, etc. You also have people building other people's muscles so they can do this work effectively. But you see something and it's not quite right. You can't place it. Now, you're the leader here. You need to understand what's going on. So you measure everything. You have all the measurements, right? And you understand very well that what gets measured gets done. But there's still something not right. So you climb the tallest tree and you look down, there's still something that's not quite right. So you climb the tallest mountain, you look down, you're like, I think I know what's wrong, but I can't really place it. So a helicopter picks you up and takes you way up above the mountains, and you understand that they're in the wrong jungle, the wrong part of the jungle. So you grab your walkie-talkie and you radio down and you say, hey, managers, listen to me. You have got the wrong jungle. And the managers reply, shut up, we're making progress. Now, this is important. A leader thinks strategically. A manager mostly thinks tactically. Now, there's a very big difference here. A very big difference. A leader makes sure that the right things get done. A manager makes sure that things get done in the right way. Make no mistake, a leader is not a leader if these two things don't happen. Number one, if they're not influencing people. If you're not influencing people, you're not a leader. Number two, a leader's main job is to see more and see more before other people. I'm going to say it again, see more and see more before others. If in any circumstance you're in a room and you're not seeing more and seeing more before everybody else, got some news for you. You are not the leader in that room. Whoever sees more and sees more before you, that's the leader. So there's a clear difference, and I really hope you do appreciate it. Leadership is not about processes. It's about people. It's about influence. Okay, the other one. Why is it important to recruit through culture? So in order to understand this, let's split it up. We need to know what culture in an organization is. Now, the culture in the organization starts with a vision. I said this before. A leader's job is to see more and see more before others. This is vision. So the leader is the one that creates the vision. It's not a good idea to democratically choose a vision. It doesn't work. Believe me, it does not work. Many mistakes have been created that way. Many companies have collapsed that way. Many organizations have failed that way. And guess what? Many countries are failing that way now today because they tried to have that collective vision. A collective vision that's democratically chosen, all it does is creates average, mediocre. And guess what? Nobody recognizes average. Nobody recognizes mediocre. Nobody actually pays more for mediocre. It's as simple as that. There's no praise for mediocre. There's no praise for average. So you don't want an average vision. You want a compelling vision. And compelling visions come from the minds of the leaders. Now, can everybody do this? I'm going to tell you the truth. No, not everybody can be a leader. Imagine if this world was filled with only leaders. Nothing would get done, okay? Luckily, we have enough people out there who are willing to lead and enough people who are willing to follow. However, very important, when we talk about culture, it's not just the vision. The vision needs to be heartfelt. You need to be able to feel it. You need to be able to imagine it. Now, the key word here is imagine. We are not talking about forecasting. That doesn't matter. We're not talking about predicting. That doesn't matter. If life has shown us anything, especially now, is that predictions are most of the time wrong. And in this world, in this life, it's not about figuring out what people are doing wrong. It's about understanding that most people are doing things wrong, and there's the few that are doing things right. That's really important. It's very important to understand this. And so we imagine that vision. We don't try to predict it. And it's nicer to imagine than to predict. Prediction will only lead you to frustration and set you up for failure. Whereas your imagination can be created to then backcast. Backcasting, again, very important. It's when you go to the future and you look at what you need, what resources you need to bring it back down to the past so that you can start building it. Forecasting is when you look at the history and try to predict what's in the future. It's okay for you're doing finance and you're doing some stock market stuff, but even like that, it doesn't always work. Now, we have vision. Then we have mission. Now, mission is a little bit different. Mission is those statements that you create for each part of the organization. Each part of the organization must have a separate mission. And why? Because if you have a company that builds, let's say, that builds housing, big housing, and the engineering department is going to have a different mission to the architecture department, which is going to be a different mission to the HVAC or the heating, air conditioning, ventilation people. Yeah, there's going to be different missions. There's going to be different things that you need to achieve. These are more tangible. I had a client a long time ago. We're still a client now, but a long time ago, this client he had a fertilizer company. He has one of the businesses, a fertilizer company, and they had a problem with the logistics. It's a morale problem. It was not doing great. People were quitting. They had a lot of retention issues, and so I hope I can say these words because it's going to come out pretty rough. And so we had to reestablish company culture there, and we understood that it was the mission that was a bit of a miss. So this is fertilizers. A lot of them are natural fertilizers. So we know where natural fertilizers come from. They usually come from the poo that animals leave behind. Their mission became, we move shit. Quite literally, we move shit. They had t-shirts done, they had cups done, they had mugs done, they had a whole bunch of USB drives and stuff like that. And it drove them. I mean, they're the logistics team for a fertilizing company. We move shit. Brilliant. Excellent. It worked for them. This is what we need to understand. Each division should have their own vision, their own mission, but it has to be attached to the leader's vision. And again, that vision is when the leader is seeing more and seeing more before everybody else. Okay? You got to make it big, because when you make it big, the problems that you have in the short term seem smaller. Yeah? It's important to understand. Now, you have your vision, you have your mission, and now you have your values. Now, what are values? This is a key question. What are values? Values are not the things you value, like your family, your friends. Those are things you value. It's like saying, oh, my values are my watch. No, they're not your values. These are things you value, which is a completely separate story. Values are internal. They are yours. They are personal. And it is how you make decisions. They are composed of your code of ethics, and they dictate your conduct. They dictate how you make decisions on a day-to-day basis. They come from here. They come from your mind, because your thoughts create your words. Your words create your actions. Your actions create your disciplines. Your disciplines determine your character. And your character builds your destiny. So your vision comes from here. Your values come from here. They need to be also heartfelt. There's no use in having values that are just simply as generic as honor, integrity, fun. They're useless. We need to, and they're unclear. We need to understand exactly what that value means for you as a leader. We need to understand what it means. So we have to create a value statement. And of course, we have a code of conduct that ties to all that. And you have a flow of how people get along with each other, how people actually interact, and then little nuances that go in between all those things. This is important. It's important to know this is how the DNA is composed. The DNA, that helix, is composed using those things. And so culture is that DNA. And why is it important? Well, we've all lived through a pandemic, right? So we've had this COVID-19 thing, and we understand that if our immune system isn't strong enough or it's compromised, we're going to suffer from things. The same thing happens with a company. The DNA of the company is not strong enough. What will happen? You hire somebody not based on your DNA, not based on your culture. And what will happen is simply you will have a virus coming in. If the company's culture is not well defined, it'll start infecting. And other people will start taking on the attitudes, the processes, et cetera, that this infected cell or this virus that came in to your company's DNA is dishing out, is secreting, right? This includes things like toxicity, the bad values, bad habits, things like that. It's important to understand. It's extremely important to understand. So you need to strengthen that so that from the point of recruitment, that virus is not even allowed in. Yeah, that point of recruitment, it's not even like having a mask. It's like having a barrier. They will not go through. That's it. No matter what they do, they're not coming through. You stop them because culturally they do not fit. You don't want them to infect. This is very, 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 very important. Okay. Now, how do you lead a strategy where you recruit through culture? There are many ways to recruit people. Some of them, you have your internal recruitment process and you go out and you recruit people, bring them in through your own resources. This is okay. Because if you're inside the company, you understand very, very well the culture of your company. First, you have to have a culture, a defined culture, okay? Every company has a culture, but it needs to be well-defined. This is important, a well-defined culture. Then, you can have recruitment companies taking care of recruitment for you. Now, let's talk about the issues that has. It's good. You're outsourcing recruitment. Fine. But are you doing it right? That's the question. Are you doing it right? Recruitment companies will do this. They will go through their database and they will type in some keywords. And then those keywords will pop out the CVs that have those keywords. And it'll ignore those that don't. That's a loss of an opportunity there, perhaps. But they look at those because they don't understand your company culture. They look at the competencies only. They look at the competencies of the individuals. And then they send those CVs to your HR department or to the hiring manager or to you. You'll get 10, 15, 20 CVs depending on the position. And now it's your job to go through those. My God, that takes such a long time and it's such a waste of time and resources. So what you need to do, if you're recruiting through agencies, there are a few solutions. I'm going to be very practical today. I want you to take home something really practical. And when you listen to this, watch this or whatever, just remember this practical points. If you're recruiting using an agency or agencies, point number one, make sure you have a PSL. PSL is a preferred supplier list. A preferred supplier list that is in tiers, meaning in levels. These are the companies you trust the most. Then these are the ones you trust less, and these ones you trust even less. And then you have the ones that are out. So I suggest no more than 3 tiers. The ones you trust the most, the ones you kind of trust, and the ones that, well, they're okay, but you're not going to trust them so much. And within those tiers, you are clear with them that there are these tiers, and you're very clear with them which tier they belong to. Number 2, you need to have SLAs, clear SLAs. SLAs, for those of you who don't know, service level agreement. What level of service they're going to give you. And you need to be very careful because remember, I said this before and I'll say it again and probably say it 20 times today. What gets measured gets done. So what do you want to measure there? You want to measure the conversion rate from CVs to placement. From CVs to placement. You don't want to measure the amount of CVs because they're just going to bombard you with useless CVs. From CV to placement, okay? You need to measure that. I personally like to keep it low. What is low? Low is 3 CVs for 1 placement. 3 CVs for 1 placement, okay? That is low enough. If you can go lower, it's even better. If you can go 1-to-1 ratio, that is the dream. That's amazing. That's incredible. And almost nobody achieves that. Okay, not on a consistent basis. So why do we do that? If you get 30 CVs in and you need to interview people, imagine having to interview 30 people. That's 30 hours of your time spent and wasted to get 1 person recruited. But if you only get 3 CVs in, you only need to do 3 interviews. That's it. 3, no more. And then from those 3, hopefully you only get 1 that you need to interview again. If you get 2, that's fine. You're only spending a couple of extra hours. But if you get 1, you got the right person and you're in. So SLAs, PSLs, extremely essential. More so than their commercial terms and conditions and their rate. Because believe me, I'd rather have a rate of 25, 30% and have a ratio of 3 CVs for 1 placement than have a 5 or 10% rate and have to have a ratio of 30-to-1. Absolutely. Don't waste my time. Don't waste your people's time. You know, I don't want my people to waste their time interviewing. I don't want to waste my time interviewing people who are not right for the company. Now, here's the most practical solution if you absolutely want to use agencies. And that is to use what we call an RPO contract. An RPO, let's be very clear on what this is. An RPO is a recruitment process outsourcing contract. What does this mean? This means that you choose 1 company to do the recruitment for you, and you get 1 person from that recruitment company to live in your company with you, meaning they need to be physically present. This is a pretty much 90% or 80% at the bare minimum position where the person has to be on the location, not remote, on the location, yeah, on location as much as possible, because that person needs to get in touch with and build relationships with all the hiring managers, the HR team, and the other recruitment agencies that supply you. This is very important. But the most important thing is they need to start living the company culture. They also need to be in touch with the CEO, because they need to really get into the very basic part of what it is to live inside that company, what it is to be part of the company, what it is to work with that company and interact with those colleagues. This way, we can actually build a recruitment process that is completely driven by your culture. Okay, that is the best way. Not every agency does this, but the greatest thing is it doesn't mean you have to stop working with agencies or you have to stop doing your internal recruitment. This is a perfect mix. It's a hybrid, because you have one agency that does everything. The agency pays that person, and you just pay the agency the fees associated with it. And that's it. Everything comes under one invoice, and they'll take care of everything for you. If they don't have this, just get in touch with us, and we'll show you how to actually build these structures. It's a little bit complicated in the very beginning, but after that, it's so easy. It's the best thing you can do for your recruitment. Now, where we make mistakes with all these processes, very, very simple. We make mistakes in these processes from the very, very, very beginning when we create a job description. So a job description, generally speaking, and poorly speaking, is created using a standard introduction paragraph followed by a job description of the kind of mechanical things the person has to do, and then it really just goes into the competencies, mostly the competencies that the person must have and the experience that they would like to have or must have as well, and that's it. So imagine you want to buy a car, and that car is a Ferrari or a Bentley, right? Let's say you go into the dealership and you say, I want a car that has a 12-cylinder engine, wheels, seats, seat belts, maybe a little bit of trunk space, not too bothered by that, a radio, wanted to have an MP3 player inside it. How many cars have we described? Now, if you go down a little bit, it's not so specialized. Let's go to a 6-cylinder car. They can give you anything between an Audi and a Porsche, or even a Volkswagen of some sort. Anything. You don't really go to a car dealer with those specifications. You are much more specific. And what you understand is how that car is going to make you feel. So when a person is looking for a job, who do you really want in your team? Do you want somebody who's actively looking for a job because they are not happy where they're at in life right now? Because all they're looking for in that case is an alternative. That is going to a generic dealership and saying, I just want a car. Whatever car it is, it's fine. As long as it has this few little things that I need, that's all good. A lot of people who leave are looking for alternatives to their current job because they're not happy. Now, the great people, they're not leaving their companies. They're being appreciated. And this is interesting. They are being appreciated, and sometimes what you need to do is create an additional incentive. Generate interest. Write a job description that gets people interested, not in the money, but in what they're going to be doing every day and the impact they're going to have. Get them interested in your company culture, in who you are as a leader, who you are as a CEO. If you're a CFO, who you are as a CFO, a CTO, et cetera, get them interested in working with you, of building a partnership inside your company with you. You need to make sure of that. And the reason you need to make sure of that is you don't want people who want to quit their jobs because they're frustrated. You want people who want to go to you because you are interesting, because they buy into your vision, because they buy into your culture, because they buy into your values, because they buy into what you're doing and the impact you're creating. They will stay. And they won't stay because they're loyal to you. They will stay because they're loyal to your company. They will stay because they keep that interest in them. As long as you continue to drive the culture in your company and drive that interest and develop people. And that's very important. Which brings me to this point. Managers manage. They manage processes, they manage people. Leaders build people. They really do. A great leader will build people. A great leader spends more time understanding how to serve their people than to looking for followers. Believe me, a leader who looks for followers, a leader that wants following, is not great. You're only going to get a great leader if you understand that that leader wants to serve. Because in serving, they actually put their hearts and their minds and their lives into what they're doing. And they care. That's what you're looking for. And you want that to come across in the job descriptions. And that way you are immediately recruiting through culture. Now, of course, the interview processes are a different thing. You need to make sure that the people who are interviewing are people who understand your company culture well and who know how to sell it, but not oversell it. You see, you don't want to seem to be too hungry when you recruit somebody. You want them to fight for that position, even if it's just a little bit, because if they have to fight for it, they will appreciate it more. Believe me. It is very important. And then you need to take care of them. Once you recruit somebody, you need to take care of them. You really do. Okay. One thing I skipped over was the need of logistics inside strategy. Strategy is absolutely useless if we're not talking about logistics. Amateurs will talk about strategy without talking about logistics. So this is what we're going to do. Yay, this is amazing. It's fantastic. How is very important. The what? That's kind of easy. I mean, creating the vision is difficult. Creating the vision is, it's a tough thing to do, believe me. I've spent sometimes even years with a client trying to create the right vision, the vision that really inspires them and drives them through their life. But once you have that vision, you know what to do to get there. You absolutely need the how. And again, you need to measure that how. Because what gets measured gets done. Incredibly important. We'll keep repeating this, okay? What gets measured gets done. Okay. So how do we create a long-term recruitment strategy? And how do we build that dream team? I'm going to tell you how we can really build an incredible team. But I'm going to talk to you about how to build a team around the CEO. Now, I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with American football, but I think this is one of the best analogies to use. If you ask anybody in this planet who understands American football, who the most paid player is in American football, they will say the quarterback. Now, why is the quarterback the most valuable player, the one that costs the most amount of money? Because the quarterback is the one who initially has control of the ball and makes a decision of where the ball goes. The second most valuable player, the second highest paid player in a team, is either the left or the right guards. It depends on who on your quarterback. If your quarterback is right-handed, then your left guard is more expensive. If your quarterback is left-handed, then your right guard is more expensive. Why? When a quarterback gets the ball, they grab the ball and they turn and they look at where they're going to throw. But that means that they've turned and their back is vulnerable. Yeah? So if they're right-handed, their left side is going to be vulnerable. If they're right-handed, the right side is going to be vulnerable. Okay? They don't even touch the ball. They don't even touch the ball. They don't make any decisions on that. They just protect. Now, in this analogy, the CEO is a quarterback. The CFO is the guard. Okay? It is very important when you build a dream team that you understand that first you need to find the right CEO. Hopefully that's you, right? But then you really need to make sure 100% that you have the right CFO. A CFO who is going to be faithful and loyal to the company, but more than anything has a protective instinct that will protect the finances of the company, will fight the CEO if they need to, will face off with the CEO, and will face off everybody on the board to protect the finances of the company and to protect the CEO. Now, they need to be very, very discreet. Especially if it's a privately owned company, they need to be discreet because the CEO will make certain decisions and they'll make decisions based on the finances of the company and say, I'm going to capitalize. And sometimes it's not great for everybody to understand how much the CEO is capitalizing from the company, right? So the CFO needs to be able to protect the CEO from any sort of attack. Needs to protect the CEO from any sort of legal action as well. So they need to make sure that everything is right. CFO, protective instinct, number one thing. And of course, everything using the company culture. Everything using the company culture. Yeah. These are two really essential positions, but the other position that is very essential is the HRD. Now, the HRD needs to be driving not only recruitment and not only the processes within inside the company, but needs to be driving culture as well. And they're responsible very much so for the onboarding process. The onboarding process, let me tell you, is so important because this is how it happens in 95% of the companies. New person comes in. Hey, hi guys, I'm the new guy. Hey, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Hey, yeah. Oh, there's your seat. Well, thank you very much. What do I do? And here's what everybody else does. I don't know. Start working. And they have no idea what they're doing. They'll start working randomly and then figure out things as they go along. No. Apple will put people on a training program that lasts for like 2 months, and they're not even allowed to work in that time. So by the time that they're actually, finished with that program, they are so eager to work, but they already know exactly what they're going to do. Exactly what they're going to do. And that eagerness, that desire to work, that's important. Now with us, with LeaderMakers, I'll tell you how we do it. In order for a coach that works with us to be able to actually coach somebody, they need to go through a very rigorous selection process. We profile them. We We make sure that everything is right with their character, their personality, their temperament. I don't care what they've done before. What they have done and their competencies are not that important, because here we do is we train them. It's more important what their character's like, what their emotional intelligence is like, their adaptive intelligence as well. And then we train them. For 400 hours, they train. And for 200 hours, they practice before they can even do anything. In some cases, in some special cases, halfway into the training, they're able to already have contact with some clients that we gave them. Okay. Now, why do we do this? We do this for company culture. We are a boutique. We deal with leaders. There aren't very many leaders of top notch in this world. But this is why we do it. We do it to make sure that our culture is firm, and that every time a leader maker has contact with a client, that they are representing us, but they are doing their very best for that client. And this is important for us. Then, so we have the HRD. We also, exit interviews are very important. Exit interviews are very important. I'll tell you why. With the HRD, exit interviews are essential for culture, because people very rarely, if ever, quit companies or organizations. People quit people. You understand the difference? They're not quitting the company, they're quitting their boss. They're quitting their culture. So exit interviews leave clues. They leave clues as to what is wrong with the leadership and the culture inside the company. So exit interviews are a key point for us to actually look and investigate. Culture, many times for people like my team, we're detectives of culture, you know? We'll go in, we'll understand the nuances of what's right and what's wrong with the culture and try to fix it. You sort it out. But many, many, many times, what you will see is that the exit interviews tell you where leadership has gone wrong, how they have gone wrong. But you need to do the exit interviews properly. And that's very important as well. And that needs to be part of your culture strategy. You also need to be able to develop your people. Two forms of development. You have the interpersonal skills, soft skills part. And then you have the other side, which is more than anything your competency part. So for this one, you can send people to school, to universities, and you can do in-house training and so on and so forth. But for the soft skills are much harder to work on than hard skills. Okay, soft skills are much, much harder. And this, we have leadership, we have emotional intelligence, we have adaptability, we have social intelligence. And it's interesting because the more you develop the soft skills, the stronger your team gets. And I think this is a beautiful thing. You know, we have reached a level in this world where knowledge is available everywhere. And when you go to the right schools, you can actually develop to the top of your competencies. But who is taking care of the soft skills? Who is taking care of the soft skills? This is a very important thing. Who is taking care of the soft skills? Okay. So now that we understand this, we need to be sure that when we create a long-term strategy, that we create that dream team of those three people. And if you want to add two more, I'm going to give them to you right now. It's a new position, two new positions, one called a CXO, Chief Experience Officer. This person takes care of only culture inside the company. That's it. What it is to have the experience of living inside the company. And that's pretty cool. There are some programs out there that are actually teaching people how to become CXOs, and most of them are quite good. And that's important. And the other one is the chief of staff. Chief of staff was created initially as a political position. But now the chief of staff is actually a very important position, especially inside startups. Yeah. Working very closely with the CEO, extremely closely with the CEO, extremely closely with the HRD to make sure that they manage part of the culture, but also everything that is related directly to the board and to the executive team in terms of creating events, making sure that they organize things like make sure that the PR is doing good as well, et cetera, et cetera. It's really a very cool position. It's a really, really cool position, but it's somewhat misunderstood nowadays. And it's very new. These two positions that I'm referring to are very new. So I'm not sure if they're actually already existing in Russia. I know in Europe, you have very few companies that have it, but the people who do have it in different parts of the world, the companies that do have that, they're really running quite smoothly. It's a really nice thing to see. I personally really appreciate the CXO and the chief of staff positions. I think they're beautiful positions, and I think it's something that we should all roll out into all our organizations. It also helps us appreciate people more. It really does. Okay. And now we're going to go into, essentially, we're going to talk about the 5 rules of an effective leader first. Okay. Rule number 1, I already explained this before, but a leader sees more and sees more before everybody else. Okay? Vision. Absolutely. A leader who does not have vision is not a leader. We need to make sure we understand that. Another thing we need to have as leaders, you need to be able to serve people. Serve, so look to serve, don't look to get followers. Yeah? A good leader sees beyond their own life, beyond their ego, and that is very, very difficult. So one of the clues that you get to understand who a good leader is if they can actually have a vision that extends beyond their life, because that will give your company or organization continuity. This is very important. It's very, very, very important. This means that the person is actually thinking of a very long-term future and of their people and the impact they're going to create. Yeah. And this is extremely important. So I implore that you create a vision that goes beyond your life. If you go beyond your life and your vision, you go beyond your ego. So a great leader will go beyond their ego, will serve others. And because they're serving others, guess what happens? They're not looking for followers. If people start looking for followers, that's where we start seeing low-level leadership. If people start telling people what to do rather than inspiring them to do things, we're talking about a medium to low-level leadership as well. Okay? Another important thing is understanding people. Empathy. Empathy is important. Empathy, but not jumping into sympathy. Now, the difference between one and the other is empathy is understanding what a person and imagining what a person could be going through. And sympathy is relating to it. You don't want to relate to what that person is doing directly. You don't want to get involved in it. Because if you go into sympathy, you become part of the drama. So you need to stay away from the drama, but stay inside the understanding. Okay? Staying inside the understanding is extremely important. Understand your people. Seek to first understand and then make yourself understood. This is another thing that Covey said that stayed in my heart very, very, very firmly. Yeah. It is important for the leader to be able to create their own vision and not democratically created. Okay. It is important for a leader to create their own values. Here's what happens when you have a company or an organization that creates their values democratically. You'll have a coach or a facilitator or a trainer or whatever coming into the office, and they'll say, all right, so here are a whole bunch of words that are values. And they might explain what values are, might not. And they say, okay, so there's 25 of you, get into 5 groups of 5 and discuss which are your top 5 values from these words. So now you start with a democratic process that's arbitrarily set out. All right, so now you have this 5 groups of 5 people, and they're all making choices. Inside those groups, you're going to have a natural leader. That natural leader is going to probably be the one who is going to define the 5 on their own agenda. And then they're going to vote for it. Okay, and now when they vote for it, they're going to get the most average of those words. And those words, let me just tell you, are created by the coach or the facilitator or the trainer, not by the leader, not by the company. Yeah, it just kind of like sounds right. They're buzzwords. I've heard this. I read this. It's probably in their subconscious mind because they heard it whilst they were commuting to work, or they saw it somewhere on a movie or a show or something like that, right? Not the right way to do it. And so they come up with their 5. Each group comes up with their 5. And now they have a discussion and they have the presentations. And all of a sudden they have another voting process. So you go from mediocre to mediocre to mediocre. This is the same principle as entropy. Entropy is the second law of thermodynamics that states that in an isolated system, energy, because it cannot be created nor destroyed, just goes into form, through form, and out of form, tends to get used and refined until it's actually quite useless. The same thing happens with ideas. And the same thing happens when you use a democratic process inside a company to create values. It makes no sense. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's very costly. And it makes big, big mistakes inside your culture. And it creates huge problems in the long term. Okay? So if you're thinking of hiring a coach to create values through different parts of your companies, bring them together and everything, I have one piece of advice, one word: no. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because you're going to do it, and then you're going to end up calling one of the leader makers to try to fix up that mess. Believe me, that's going to happen. Don't do it. The leader is the one that's supposed to create those values. Okay? So one of the biggest mistakes is precisely that: outsourcing leadership tasks or leadership requirements like the values. You don't outsource values. You don't outsource vision. Yeah. Also, you don't impose mission. All right. You can have your own mission with your own mission statement. We have our own in LeaderMakers, my personal mission statement that nobody has to comply with, but they're very welcome to join in, is to lead the world by healing leadership. Now, this is my ambition. This is my mission. If my coaches want to join in, open arms. The vision is that one thing that we created that comes from top down, and it's always going to be that way. The same thing with values. They're always going to be that way. It's very important. If not, you end up with a mixed bag of average things that you end up doing and decisions that are average. If your values, let me just have you think here for a second. If your values determine your decisions, what happens? What quality of decisions do you have if your values are average? And this is why it's very important to make sure that you don't have average values, that you have compelling value statements. Another one of the issues with another one of the rules of effective leadership is to create effective goal setting. I don't know how many people have said, well, we use SMART goals. Smart? Smart goals are not that smart. Mainly because they have that little A in the middle of it, which is attainable. Attainable basically means that you can achieve it. So for me, anything that's achievable is a task. Just do it. Get on with it. Just do it. A goal should be something that is beyond that regular realm of achievement. They need to be heartfelt. You need to feel those goals. They need to mean something to you. They need to mean something to your people. They need to mean something. If something means something to you, you do it. You just do it. They need to be animated. Yeah. And I would get a comment here from Xenia, who said this is a picturesque lecture. And unfortunately, she had to go. But yeah, well, that's animated, right? You need to be able to be animated and create that vision for your people. And that vision has to be part of every single big goal that you have, and every big goal that you have, it needs to go towards that vision. This is very important. Okay. So I'm not sure we have, I think this is our time right now. I will leave this open for any questions. And so please ask me any questions if you like. And meanwhile, I guess I can continue talking about some of the effective rules of leadership. So another one of the really cool things that a leader really should have is that they should develop other people. This is one rule that for me is unbreakable. You need to develop other people, but in order to develop other people, and here's another rule, you need to first develop yourself. Yeah. You need to first develop yourself. We have a rule in LeaderMakers, in my company, we have a rule, and the rule is to educate yourself, to learn, at least as much as you coach. Meaning, if a person has 10 sessions lasting 1 hour that week, so that's 10 hours, that they're at least training, developing, learning, educating themselves for a minimum of 10 hours. A minimum of 10 hours. Yeah. Of course, if they have 20 hours, then they need to develop themselves for 20 hours. And why? Because when you develop yourself, if you're constantly developing yourself, you constantly improve, you constantly grow. You maintain that neuroplasticity that is so needed. You keep young in your mind. You keep strong in your mind. And you keep relevant. So Anna asks if we could suggest any books about team building. Let me think here. Yes, I have the best book. This is an amazing book, and it does talk a lot about culture. It's about the All Blacks. What I'm going to do here, I am going to look in my library so I can tell you the exact name of the book. Hold on. It's about the All Blacks. The All Blacks, whilst I'm looking for this, the All Blacks are a team, rugby team from New Zealand, the most successful sports team in history. The name of the book is Legacy by James Kerr. That's James, Kerr. Amazing book. It talks about culture. It talks about leaving a legacy through that culture and about team building. I really, Anna, do suggest that you read or listen to this book. It is incredible, and it shows you how the All Blacks have actually built an extremely strong, tight, cohesive team using culture and viewing legacy. Okay. Now, right now it is a little past my time, but I will have to go now. Let me just thank you very much for this opportunity and for listening and hopefully learning something here today. If anybody is actually interested in masterminds with my team, we do have masterminds in English and in Russian, of course. Just go to our website. It's leadermakers.ru. And it will be really, really, really amazing to have you in there and possibly even interact with you one-on-one. And really appreciate everything. And Artum, Anna, Ksenia, Masha, and Anastasia, thank you so very, very much for commenting. I really appreciate the time. I really hope I've added some value to your lives. And if we did, please stay in touch and let me know. Let me know. In fact, you know what? I will give you my direct email. It is CEO@leadermakers.org. Yeah, CEO@leadermakers.org. I'm very happy to answer questions for you. Of course, if I get bombarded, you'll have to bear with me. It might take me a while to get to them, but I really very much appreciate the time. I appreciate your comments. And from the bottom of my heart, I just really hope that I have added value to your businesses, to your organizations, and to your lives. Thank you very much. And hold on 1 second here. Okay, so Artum asked a question about the main points in a CV to look better in the eyes of a headhunter. Artum, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Get a CV coach. They are very, very good at writing those things. It's all going to depend on specifically what you're looking for. But my biggest piece of advice is this: be proactive. Yeah, go out there and talk to the people you want to actually do business with. Talk to them. That is the best way to do it. With my clients, I always say scout, 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 scout for the best talent out there. But if you're a good talent for what you're doing, you're a great talent for what you're doing, you need to be able to show this. And the CV is not usually the best way. The best way is find the people you want to work with. Get in touch with them. Offer them a cup of coffee. Offer them to buy them lunch, a sandwich, whatever, and have a conversation with them. Start networking your way into it. And networking doesn't mean going into different networking events, because in networking events, one thing happens, and that's that everybody tries to sell everything to everyone and nobody's buying, right? What it is just build connections, man. Build connections. Find the right people in the right places for you. It's not about what you put into your CV. It's about who you talk to. It's about how you build relationships. It really is about that. But if you really want a great CV, depending on your specialty, depending on what you're doing, the best thing you can do is get a coach who can do your CV with you and for you. At LeaderMakers, we develop leaders. So we don't have that service, but please do find somebody who can do this for you. It will do you great service. But the best thing, get out there, talk to people. Find the people who mean something in your industry. Find the people who will be right. Talk to them. And then come up and tell them that you want to work for them. That if they really truly inspire you, Artum, if they truly, really inspire you, tell them, I really would like to work for you. And that will be the beginning of a wonderful, wonderful working relationship that could even end up with you having a great mentor. Okay? Everybody, thank you very, very much. Again, I hope I've added some value to your businesses, some value to your life, and inspired some leaders today. Thank you very much. And once again, if you're interested in joining any of our mastermind sessions. They're really cool. Just reach out, go to our website. All the data is there. It's leadermakers.ru, and that's great. And if you want to get in touch with me, please do. I'd like to answer questions. I might not be able to get to everybody, but it's easy. CEO at leadermakers.org. Okay, I'm just going to type it down here. It's leadermakers.ru and my email. Okay. Thank you very much for everything. Спасибо большое. And I hope to speak to some of you soon. Take care. And make a difference, make an impact.